it's not AI going to replace you. It's whoever who know how to harness AI power will replace you. So just keep that in mind. It's really about the AI. It's whoever really harness AI power will be at the cutting edge.
Welcome to API Futures, a podcast by Ascend where we empower global leaders of tomorrow. Here's our guest host for this episode.
I'm thrilled to be with you all today. It's great to be a part of the Ascend family. So thanks for the invitation, Barbara. Barbara is a board member of Atlas. And so we have a very special relationship, and I get to live the benefits of Ascend firsthand through my relationship with Barbara. So I just wanted to share, I have about 20 years background in HR services. And so this topic was so exciting for me, and to be able to spend this time with Lee. Probably over the last 20 years, my teams have hired about 2 million people in my various work that I've done. And so as we've watched kind of the way we interact with talent change, AI has played this really interesting role. So about 7 years ago, I was presenting at a conference talking about using AI to help match the best recruiter to the best job, meaning how can you use AI to help predict which recruiter will do a better job at getting you the best candidate? And an engineer stopped me afterward and said, I just want you to know it's only AI if it's on PowerPoint, if it's machine learning for us engineers. And so that was a real call to leveler for me. But the reality is the technology has advanced so much in the past 7 years that we're really able to do some pretty incredible things. So I'm really excited to have to be able to talk with Lee, moderate this conversation. And Lee is owed a round of congratulations. So in addition to being the CTO of Circle, she's also taken on a new role. And maybe Lee, you could share with the audience a little bit about your new role as Chief AI Officer as well.
Yeah, of course. First of all, it is my great honor and pleasure to be here. I know Ascend for a while. I know quite a few leaders here, but it is quite a pleasure. And thank you for having me here. And I know this is the last session before lunch, so it's kind of a high talk. So hopefully we'll keep you entertained. So I've been CTO for more than 10 years for various unicorn companies, but recently I took on a very exciting role as a Chief AI Officer. I know it sounds like very vague and cool, but it really means it's not just for my own technical organization, not for engineer, even though that is the core team to enable it. It's for every function, every employee in the company. How can I help them to enable use AI tools, thinking in the AI way, and particularly adjust in the AI age? Because I think thanks to the CEO's relentless push, we decided that there's no way to avoid it. In fact, we want to go ahead of the curve and make sure that every employee can adjust their skills and mindset in the AI age. So my job is really to not just on the technology side, more on the policy, talent, and the infrastructure, everything else, how to enable that. So it's quite a learning, and I'm still in the early stage, but a very, very exciting work. Yeah.
And Lee, you had shared with me a little bit about the charter of the function and some of the key kind of subcommittees or action groups as part of the overall AI function within Circle. Could you talk a little bit about the structure and kind of some of the key players you interact with?
Totally. That's when I first started, like the end of last year, I thought, okay, so I'm the one in charge. I have a working group, but soon enough, things become so complex, and I realized I do need to have a subgroup. And there's like right now, I have 3 subgroups under the big umbrella of AI initiatives. The first one is, of course, AI technology, and where like we build AI infrastructure internally and with engineer and with the product team enable in AI tooling for both internal and external. But that's like kind of a very natural. The second one is AI governance, and that's particularly relevant to the board, that they really want to understand what are the guardrails, what are the risks we should think about, and particularly for industry like us as a fintech, there's a lot of regulation. What are the interactions? What the regulator worry about, and as in a changing world, what are the potential risks? Not just hallucination, like a data protection in the field. There's so many new tools coming up. So the data governance and the management and the risk control is a big chunk. I work with our chief risk officer in the company, and he's leading that working with me on that thing. And the last one, actually the core one, is a long impact, is AI talent, what we call. I work closely with our head of talent, which is the head of people, of working on how can we recruit, retain, and train the internal employee to upgrade their AI skills, and also wave in the more subtle way, how can we evaluate them ongoing, and how can we communicate in the way that people don't feel scared, is AI taking my job, what it's going to be tomorrow. A lot of those complex issues, I'm fortunate to have my head of talent working with me on that subgroup. So those are the three ones: technology, governance, and talent.
Great. Well, Lee, if you don't mind, I would love to take on the last topic, which
Sure.
is talent specifically. It's interesting because in my work, what I've seen is a shift from we're going to lose jobs to, oh no, we have a whole lot more types of roles and new roles being created to be able to take advantage of AI technology. And I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about your view of how AI is reshaping workforce needs?
Yeah, totally. So first of all, I do want to set the stage. I know people it feels like AI has been with here such a buzzword right now, but everyone have a definite definition of AI. If you ask academics, someone will say AI started in the 1960s, and some will say maybe 20 years ago when a Google or recommendation engine comes, that's AI. That's, frankly speaking, that is AI. It's a more classic way, machine learning, statistical model. But recently, as the new engagement or enthusiasm come along, is really the generative AI, which started as, frankly speaking, the moment was 2022 when ChatGPT 3.5 is launched. So when you think about it, it's really only a little bit more than 2 years. So a lot of things, what I'm trying to say is it's very early stage. So whatever people predict, I think it's really just a personal view. So that's I want to qualify that. That's my personal view, because all that here right now is a lot of those just guesswork. History already show a lot of guesswork 10 years ago didn't pan out, but that's okay. I do have a conviction that AI will change the workforce structure. In terms of whether you will have a humongous unemployment or actually create more job, it's hard to tell, depending on your pessimistic or optimistic person. But the work structure is definitely going to change, right? So one thing I can tell you, even 1.5 years ago, when people say, "Oh yeah, we don't need engineers anymore because AI will do," I was laugh at it. I'm like, "No way, engineers too hard. You need a thinking." But literally 9 years ago, when I look at the latest model, and I'm like, okay, it's actually getting there. And again, but I even today, I don't think it's really replace engineer per se. However, it's definitely make your work much, much faster. You will replace, probably we will have to, as a CTO, I probably have to think about, do I continue need to hire more and more engineer because I have more and more work? I think probably not. And a lot of board, including my board, is keep asking with all the efficiency, AI power, do you still need that many headcount? What's the resource need, right? Now, I think that's a very valid question. So a lot of workforce, particularly white collar workforce, will get really pressure that's to ask, say, what are the work steps AI can replace? So, but this is really case by case. So it's really hard to predict which one will totally replace, which one will shrink, and which one actually will increase. But one thing I keep emphasizing everyone in the employee, in the organization, including my engineer, is it's not AI going to replace you. It's whoever who know how to harness AI power will replace you. So just keep that in mind. It's really about the AI. Is whoever really harnessed AI power will be at the cutting edge.
So it's an interesting thing what you said, though, about harnessing AI power. I take a look from my perspective, I see companies applying AI, and I'm asked the same questions in my board meetings, which is, what are we doing to deploy AI to create more efficiency, to change the customer experience? Can you comment on industries first, and then maybe we can talk about functions, but some of the industries where you think AI has the most promise for creating these sorts of opportunities to generate more efficiency?
Yeah. So again, there's a wide range of industries. So first of that very high level, in general, in the longer term trend, I think AI will disrupt almost every industry. But in the short term, it's in some way ironic enough. We will always joke that the software engineer disrupted their own job first, because the part that we see the most promising, one of them is software engineer world, right? So if you look at the tooling, I was have a chance at chat. Join us on chat with Cursor. For those who don't know, it's a very, very powerful startup who provide developer environment for engineers. They themselves already replaced 35% of coding generated by Cursor. Meta, Google, all the CEOs said around 30% of code already generated by AI. And I believe the trend is going to be more and more. That means in a very simple form, engineer can spend 30% less time on coding, but of course they have to do a lot of other things like testing, design, this kind of thing. So that's a complex question. So this is a field, it's really just happening. It's in front of you, right? Now also, for example, self-driving car, we've been waiting for 10 years. It's finally, if you haven't ride a Waymo, it's like a fantastic. So my point is those things are happening. The things happen will be slow. A little bit slower is like what we always do. I saw a cartoon. What we always dream is robotics can clean the house for you, cooking things, and fold the laundry. Unfortunately, it's the other way. It's the whoever writing the article and do data science and writing the code is get disrupted first. But trust me, it's the robotics are coming too. But it's slower because when you come to the physical world, it's much harder. The perception, you read the signal and also control the physical movement, it's much, much harder, but it's coming. I personally invest in a robotics company that already be able to fold your towers in gyms because I don't know how many people do know in gym, 40% of labor put folding the towers and put it there. So, and they are solving that problem. So it's just a very one step at a time, but it's coming. I think that hardware, the physical world is probably coming in the 5-10 years, but in the frankly speaking, white collar job, like you say, marketing job, like accounting job, and a software developer job, it's happening right now. In the frankly speaking, within 2-3 years, you will see a lot of changes. Yeah.
Well, and interestingly, so all of those roles, I keep thinking about Rosie, the robot from the Jetsons, may be a reality in the future.
Yeah.
But in where I see a lot of adoption is companies that experience high volumes of inbound calls, for instance, in financial services in general.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what do you think are some of the roles to kind of add on to that list that you added? What are some of the other roles where you've seen success in deploying AI to maybe be able to address headcount issues or to be able to reduce total amount of people deployed against?
Yeah, totally. So for example, call center, right? Customer support is definitely a field that you already see a lot of success stories, but I think it's only the beginning. And why we have to hire people in the past, even though the back end decision actually is a pretty finite tree, right? So you can only, frankly speaking, customer support, most likely, there's only so many actions you can take, right? You reset your password, you explain to them the policy, you refund something, you tell them where your furniture is, those kind of things. There's a finite tree. The hard part in the past, before we have generated APIs, listen the conversation. Because different customers, they have a different way to express their need. And that part in previous generation of AI, you cannot take on that input very precisely. Generative AI is super, super powerful. Whatever language, whatever the accent, and they really take in and say, okay, I got it. Do you want to track where your furniture is? And I can pull it out and give to you. And all those things was really enabled, the improvement enabled recently. Because previously, if you do automation backend, it's actually not that hard because there's only finite tree. However, we still, again, no company I have known that removed a team altogether. Ultimately, most of the companies still will have a human in the loop, but they can dramatically reduce the need of all those simple input and triage. But there will be 1 out of 10 cases, the customer asks a very tricky question. I have one tech company share with me that when their previous AI made a mistake, customer say, why can't you give me a refund? Tell me exactly what's your criteria. And AI didn't program well and it just shared internally how they decide. And the companies really don't want to do that, right? So because how AI decide? Because there's back-end rules, right? If you don't carefully do that, when customers say, hey, tell me why you make that decision, why can't I get a refund? And the AI just shared that incident that say, okay, that means like AI is not perfect. Frankly speaking, all those automation rules, you will have to tell AI what steps you can take, what step you cannot take. What's smart about it is, as I said, when you process very vague human language, and this kind of thing in the past, computer software is not that powerful. Now you can really pick up the cue. Okay, that customer getting angry. Actually, my daughter did a summer intern. It's really just learning whether the customer get angry or is happy and this kind of thing. So,
oh, that's interesting. And you know, as I'm asked by my board to look at it, one of the things that we try to determine is to your point, is it a process that's easily automatable, or is it a process that requires some human judgment?
yes.
So in our case, we have 160 entities where we need people often to make legal decisions around hazy legalities in a particular country and making sure that we're compliant. And I heard from a head of a fintech company, a buy now, pay later company once, and he said, could you imagine as the CEO trying to explain to your board that your AI agent took a call from a person who said, I've lost my job, I have 2 kids, I need to feed them, I'm not going to be able to pay my bill this week. And the AI agent says, sell the kids and pay your bill. And and I think what you're saying is really importantly is that there are those roles where you will need a human to make judgment calls.
That extreme case, I'm pretty sure right now we will not do that. AI is smarter than that. Maybe like 2 years ago, AI will do that. Not right now. But it's true. So again, like we talked to a lot of the AI leaders, and they do emphasize, right at this moment, if it's a very high-stake decision, please have a human in the loop. Right. There are some decisions, even if AI make a mistake, and if you look at totality, it's still super efficient and you can take some of the, frankly speaking, mistake. But if you want an AI execute a multi-million-dollar deal, please look at it. And I don't, again, AI is still right now is augment. I don't think it's really like doing the job completely. So that this is something I want to emphasize right now. But things can change. Like maybe 1 year from now, things change.
Yeah. Lee, in your LinkedIn profile, you said that you were an artist first. And I'm wondering if you could comment a little bit about efficiency gains that we generate through AI versus human creativity that often leads us to product innovation. And have you seen, like, how do you marry the two between, can you use AI to maybe even enhance some of the creativity that happens in companies and to land on the next big idea?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, again, like it depends on how you define creativity, right? So one of the things I find it's very illuminating is when, again, 1 year ago, if I look at the AI, I say, okay, it remembers everything, it's processed quickly, but in terms of doing like a hardcore math, I'm skeptical. That's 1 year ago. Half a year ago, and I look at it, it's like, gosh, it is really can do very hard math, the critical thinking ability, and it's learned so much that it can do like what they call PhD level math problems right now. However, just because you can do PhD math level math, are you a PhD as a human? I don't think so. That's a, human being, not just because you are very good at your profession. You are also a mom, a wife, a daughter. You have a lot of connections. You're processing other informations in your life, and you make some judgment call that is beyond your profession and beyond what you learned in academic. And I think that is something very complex when you say creativity, right? Because when I was young, I'm trained as an artist, and I was very excited to see AI generate those pictures. But when at least so far, when I look at the picture it generated, it looks very cool at the beginning. But if you look at it, I can totally tell it's generated, right? So, and frankly speaking, I cannot articulate why. But I think I watch enough, like say museum or something. You can tell whether it's a really human being processing it or whether it's like a machine generated. But don't ask me how I feel it. It is really hard to articulate. And that's another thing, right? AI cannot really articulate as a human being how you take in those kind of a subtle information and how you express yourself. Not yet. Again, like I'm right now very open-minded. I'm very much want to see what's going to happen. But right now, And I give you another example. I went to a retreat, and there's a lot of academic leaders and government leaders talking about AI impact. I asked professors from Stanford, Yale, Harvard. Many of them allow their students to do use ChatGPT or AI to do their homework. And I asked them, like, can you tell? And they like, we can totally tell. I'm like, how? And one of the economic professors say, when I ask them to do, what I'm looking is the really innovative idea, right? Original idea. And the ChatGPT can really help you to summarize whatever out there and give you very smooth writing. But if you look at how the kind of an original idea, how to identify a problem, how to solve the problem, the approach, you can totally tell which students like use their own brain, which students just using ChatGPT. Well, that's what they say today. And I'm very curious, like 1 year from now, whether they can really tell. I think you can still tell. Again, unfortunately, I cannot articulate where is the creativity. Because I also was talking to a writer. There's AI can produce a lot of, cookie cutter, very polished standard writing for you. But in terms of original, at least I don't feel like AI work can still be your first novel to break into the market. It can be like maybe later. Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's a fun exercise to look at art. I'm an art collector, not an art producer, but to actually look at a piece and say, do you think it was AI generated or not?
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun game to play with friends if you ever want to try that.
Totally.
I wanted to switch gears a minute and go back to the kind of what would be relevant for board members as they're thinking about AI policy for companies, because I'm suspecting that a lot of the organizations that you serve on their boards, they're developing policies, or they're thinking through policies, or maybe revising policies. What would you say, Lee, are some of the more important principles that the folks in this room should think about as they're advising their management teams on how to approach AI from a business perspective as well as an ethical perspective?
Yeah. So first of all, I think just remember AI is developing extremely fast. So there's two sides of this. One is right now it's still baby stage. I would say very nascent stage. So there's like hallucinating. And I give you one thing, right? We talk a lot about agentic workflow, which means there's like a important steps in the middle. The AI will make some decision based on whatever the rules and whatever now. Majority of the time, unless it's like a classic rule-based engine, if you ask AI to make a decision, there's a precision number, right? The good ones, AI, maybe 90%, 95% precision. Pretty good, right? But if you have 3-4 steps, have an AI make a decision, that error compounds. So you have to understand, even if you have the most powerful AI model and the precision of one decision is 95% accurate, which by the way is not, like most likely it's less than that. It's if you have the AI agent have multiple steps make a decision, that error rate compounds, and that can be very, very high. As a board member, just ask your team, how many steps you using AI and particularly how you evaluate them. A lot of people just like, wow, it looks great. And in majority case, maybe 60-70% demo perfectly. But in the reality in production, how do you evaluate when things have a mistake? And what is the escalation point and how do you do that? And if you management team have a great answer, that means I think evaluation is something people tend to forget. That's one thing. The second thing, at least I feel pretty good, is it's not a time to ask for IOI yet. I know board likes to ask a manager, like if I invest this in AI, because you do need to enable the AI tools and you need to pay for the model, at least I'm very happy that our board haven't asked ROI, at least not for the first half a year. Because right now it is so early that you want to enable your workforce really all in to learn and adjust, because you don't want AI become a disadvantage of your business. And every company are trying, at least I feel like everyone trying. So you want them to really catch the wave and utilize tool, make sure all your employees have a ChatGPT sign up enterprise version so that you can have all the access control, So, and let them try and make sure they are equipped by skill. At this point, it's not ask for ROI. Of course, like every company is different. I'm not saying you should waste the money, but the first stage is not about ROI. It's about look at the overall function, whether they are thinking in the AI way instead of say either scared or kind of skeptical and it still feel this is a foreigner. And then probably towards like maybe the second half, I would say, start to ask ROI. Now I invest, say, I don't know, 1 million, 500,000, or like more than that on the AI front. What do you measure? What is the benefit? Is it improvement in productivity, improvement of product adoption, improvement of customer satisfaction? Those can be measured. It's a very classic technical thing because I have to answer those questions every quarter and say, what is the measurement of your ROI in terms of investment and benefit? But what I will say is at the beginning, just give more space, have a conviction because I have a conviction it's going to be powerful.
And one last question, Lee, and I agree with you because we're seeing that. And I think sometimes it is hard to see the ROI because you need it's almost like part of the change management
Exactly.
process
You need to have some
adopt.
time. Yes.
The last question I would have for you, and then we'll open up to the floor for a couple of questions, is ethics. Is there anything that you would advise board members that they should be talking to their management team around kind of ethical use of AI in policy? Is that something that you're thinking of and you're asked as part of your steering committee?
Totally. I think one of the things is just to make sure the team, and I'm sure many of the leaders know, the AI didn't give you excuse any of the accountability. At the end of the day, at least this stage, AI is still a powerful tool for your employees to do their job better, right? And so whatever their responsibility, like say governance of data, privacy for like your customer, and whatever that, it's still human beings' job. Say you cannot like let's say I told the engineer I want AI to help you generate the code, but at the end of the day, if you're checking some bug, I don't want to hear excuses. Oh, AI generated for me. No, at the end of the day, it is your job to check the code, doing what it's doing. So this is not an excuse, right? This is a productivity booster or like a product, like enhancement. Your accountability is still lie on a human being's name. So that is very clear. There's nothing, no question. Then whatever classic, what you should do, you still need to do. There's like whatever, access control or security concern, you still need to do that. So there's no like compromise at those things. Yeah.
It's almost like treating it like another employee and what would be the safeguards and guardrails you would put around that employee.
Yeah.
That is great. Thank you very much for that advice. I'm going to open up the question. We have about 3 minutes. We can take questions. Yes.
Hi, Teresa Kong. It's such an honor to have you here. You're an expert in computer vision. You've been at Pinterest, Google. You obviously joined Circle for a reason. And so I'm curious, we haven't touched on this, which is what do you see as the next stage with respect to AI and the blockchain?
Great question. The reason I joined FinTech at that time was I truly believe to be honest, the U.S., the whole FinTech system was very old. I spent, if you look at the resume, people will see I spent 3 years in China, and I look how just convenient and smooth and in Asian and people can utilize and just like do payment and a transfer. So I believe this is the place that we can disrupt. Now, what I still believe it. So what I didn't expect, and now I more kind of internalize is how slow that innovation can be, and in some way for a good reason, because U.S. have a lot regulations for good intention to protect the consumer, but that at the same time is also make innovation very, very slow. And blockchain is a technology itself hopefully will be a disruptive technology that help people to really build a trust without intermediate. And that's the core idea of it. It's really be able, if you understand whatever the transaction, at some point you can observe the transparency it provides will help you to build that trust without a central, like you have to trust Bank of America or JP Morgan or this kind of thing. And because you have to rely on trust, they will be the intermediate that make it super inefficient and frankly speaking, also costly. I think that's the main idea of it. AI and blockchain, at this point, it's just like any of the infrastructure, but when blockchain make every financial transactions more digitalized, and AI will be much more powerful to, at this point, again, AI is moving much more powerful to improve things are digitalized. As I said, it's much harder in the physical world if the information has not been online. It will get in there, but it takes time. So it's a very promising world. That's why I'm in a very exciting field and a time. Yeah.
One more, right?
You. Chen Wang here. Thank you so much for the discussion. I live in high tech and I invest in early stage AI companies. So I see how fast things are moving. But in my board work, my company is a lot more conservative. And they, it's really far away from what Silicon Valley is doing, right? So the company's even having trouble rolling out Microsoft Copilot because they're afraid of what people will be asking the agent for. Mm-hmm. What I see is large companies can have chief AI officer and can have a team of people constantly evaluating the risks, but mid-cap companies, micro-cap companies don't have that resources, right? What's your advice for them? I tell my company to be keeping an open mind and trying things out, but the risk is what stopped them. And they don't have the resources to continuously evaluating risk. So what's your advice for companies a little bit maybe more conservative, a little bit smaller on the size scale?
Yeah, so I totally feel your pain because I'm in the fintech world, and 1 year ago, it took us a long struggle to get the Copilot off the ground. I do think take conviction, but how to get there? So one question I have, I'm pretty sure this room is probably hard. How many of you use ChatGPT every day? Okay, good enough. But I would say if you can have yourself and your board sign up for ChatGPT paid version and try to use it every day as frequent as Google, you will see the power. I think seeing is believing. And I just went to a retreat, and it amazes me on how many government officials talking about AI regulation without ever use ChatGPT. Right. My point, the reason I say ChatGPT is not like I work for OpenAI. It is the most powerful consumer product right now. In the enterprise world, there's so many applications already. You probably invest a lot already there, and you may not feel it. But if you use ChatGPT, instead of ask Google, use ChatGPT, ask very deep questions. The other day, I just asked it to do a deep research on, because I somehow get interested in fusion versus fission of the reaction, why certain countries can build, why not, how much budget a government can have to spend on those things. The deep research is so powerful. You can also ask the operator, say, give me every day, summarize all the Twitter messages about AI and blockchain from those people. And they literally send me email every day, summarize. Because otherwise, I don't know about you, I cannot keep up all the information. So all those things, once you start to use that, you know the power, then you have to think about exactly what risk I'm worried about. Because when people talk about risk, once you ask them to write it down, because that's what I did, and then we're working with our CISO, because they are so concerned that they don't want to turn on everything. I'm like, okay, write down exactly what you worry about. Data privacy. Okay, this is something I can guarantee you. People use AI stupidly. I'm like, too bad. People, even without AI, people can make stupid decisions. So there's a lot of worry. If you peel up one by one, you can really reason about it. I do think in every company or every board, you need someone have a strong conviction and be an evangelist. You need someone like that. So sounds like you're going to be one, but I will say totally worth it. I have to say, actually, my CEO is the one who pushed me relentlessly. Now I'm converted. I'm being the one. But it's totally worth it. Yeah.
Great. All right, we are at time. It's time for lunch, I think, next. So thank you all very much. And thank you, Lee.
Sure.
And congratulations on the new role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to API Futures, where we empower global leaders of tomorrow. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube.